Let's look at the construction of a cylinder in sunlight on the ground. We want to look at what precision do you actually need for making this construction. So we have already figured out that we need the cast shadow, the terminator. With the terminator we found the core shadow, and we need to find the highlight. So this technique, or what we're working on, has been explained beforehand in the earlier pages, but this is a review and a look at the speed of how fast we can draw this. So what we need first is our section plane, the light plane, and we're cutting through here. And as I mentioned in another video, how to cut through an object, we're explaining in how to draw, and we're assuming that you're familiar with these techniques. So I have now 1, 2, 3, 4 points on the cylinder where that shape would cut through. Depending on your preference, you could add another section through this. So I'm going to go here at the end cap and add another vertical line. So one point is here, one point is here, and one point is here, and I let the section run with perspectives into this direction. And here we're just hitting the outline of the shape. And going to our light plane, we're gonna go straight up and we find 2 additional points. At this point, adding more points will actually not make your drawing more precise. And here's the reason for this. Now I need to go in here and just draw an elliptical shape through all these points. I have a little bit of width in there that I need to work with. So my precision will not be as high as if I do a full draft of this, but a full draft might not be worth it. We just want to get a reasonable result to find a cast shadow, a core shadow, and the highlight. So I'm looking at this from behind, and I find the 2 tangencies that I need. What I know now is how wide the shadow is going to be. Here we go. So that's the width of my shadow. And now I need to cast the end cap. The end cap, like we did in the earlier chapters, are just sticks standing here. So I take each of the sticks and cast them on the ground. Stick number 1. Here's stick number 2. Always keep in mind where your light is coming from. And here will be stick number 3. With that we get 1. The upper point shows up here, 3, and then this point shows up 4. Counting 1, 2, 3, and the 4th point here. And now I'm drawing an elliptical shape into this. This ellipse needs to hit tangent the outer line, tangent this outer line, and go through the other points. I know that this ellipse will be repeated back here, so if I extend this line on the shadow length, I know that this shape will show up here again, so I can guess the shadow shape into the back. Now it comes down to cleaning the shape up. And as you can see right now, we're using actually a very small section of that ellipse. to actually find the shadow shape itself. The next thing we need to have is the terminator, and we find it right along here. And then, as I mentioned beforehand in earlier pages, how to find the highlight straight from the center, so it's a little bit behind the body. Here's the highlight. To render this shape, you should reference our rendering curved surfaces on page 64 to get the full details on that, and how to find out what the actual width of the core shadow will be. And to just reiterate, we got out of this a good 1, 2, 3 read. Here's our number 2 surface. On the back there would be our number 1 surface, and here would be our number 3 surface. Let's take a look at the sphere construction. We have a local light here, where we have the light source and the shadow origin. So what we're looking for is how much precision do we need to get a reasonable result to find the core shadow, the cast shadow, and the terminator for the sphere. So we start off with the things that are the most obvious, finding the, I'm calling it in this case, the length of the shadow. And this is the section that's easy to work with because there are no real rules in here. So what we know now is the terminator goes through here and goes through here. The next thing that will make things interesting here is that the terminator will have a minor axis, and the minor axis of that ellipse will be here. I personally still like to add these lines here on the side to give myself a little bit better orientation to place the ellipse that is needed right now. Again, how to place ellipses we are covering in how to draw, and I'm gonna place now an ellipse hand drawn, and I know my minor axis. I place the hand drawn ellipse in here. You will see there's a little bit of variance again, but that's okay for the precision we need. So at this point I'm drawing a line through here, as we have covered beforehand, and I'm taking the direction of the perspective, and now I know that this point and this point are on the terminator. So this is the terminator. I can cast this onto the ground, and I will have to find the relative position on the ground. So I'm going to take a vertical line, draw it straight down, take a vertical line here, draw it straight down. Keep in mind that this point has shifted a little bit backwards, and they're meeting somewhere here. So at this point I know this point, this, and this belong to the shadow. So now you're going to draw a line to the other side. What you want to make sure is this distance, and I'm guessing it in this case, there's not much foreshortening, should be showing up here. Keep in mind the shadow is symmetrical, left to right. That's the most important thing we're going to be looking for. So I'm building a little bit out the base and the top here. And I'm ready to draw in the shadow. So again, I'm aiming for this point, I'm aiming for this and this point, while keeping the pencil just floating above. Now what I want to make sure is that this distance and this distance are similar to one another, and that the lines are coming out at a tangency. It won't matter very much if you drop it a little bit or lift it a little bit, as long as both sides look symmetrical. So we're crossing here and we're crossing here, so this wants to go out a little bit more. Move around. Come in a little bit more shallow. Build it out. Now I'm going to take the ellipse guide to clean this up. Keep in mind, I'm using the ellipse guide not necessarily as a full ellipse, because this is just an elliptical shape. I'm using the ellipse guide more like a French curve or like a template. So it will not, I'm not expecting it to fit perfectly. What you want to keep in mind too is, for this kind of work you could use Photoshop or a 3D program to get the layout that you want to have. Always use the natural movement of your wrist, so that's why I twisted the page, so you get actually a good curve out of this. So that basically sets us up. We have the Terminator here, going along, moving up here. This will be the dark side of the sphere, this will be the shadow on the ground, and now the highlight sitting here, Terminator and the shadow are matching with one another.